Hello everyone, welcome back to Data Crafting with Sneha. Today we are going to solve an interesting SQL problem that was asked in Myntra interview. So let's get started with the question. This table contains logs of the dates that users visited a certain retailer. Assume today's date is 1st January 2021. Write an SQL query that will, for each user ID, find out the largest window of days between each visit and the one right after it. Or today, if you are considering the last visit, and return the result table ordered by user ID. Okay, so let's look at the user visits table. This table contains user ID and visit date for each time a user visited the retailer. Okay, so what do we need to find? For each user, we need to calculate the largest window of days between each visit and the one right after it. If it's their last visit, we compare it to today's date, which is 1st January 2021. Okay, so for user ID 1, visit date are 28 November, 20 October, and 3rd December. Right. So first we sort the visit date in ascending order. So we sort the visit date in ascending order from earliest to latest. Okay. And then calculate the gaps between consecutive visits. So first visit is 20 October, second visit is 28th November, and third visit is 3rd December. Okay. Now we will calculate the difference in days between consecutive visit. So first visit is 20 October, second visit 28 November, and the difference between gap between first and second visit is 39 days, right? Then gap between second and third visit 5 days. Okay. And 3rd December, this is a last visit. Okay. So if there is a last visit, we compare to the current assumed date, which is 1st January 2021, right? So 3rd December 2020 to 1st January 2021, the gap between third and current assumed date is 29 days. Okay. So after calculating all the gaps, 39 days, 5 days, and 29 days, the largest gap between visit is 39 days, right? For user ID 1. Similarly, for user ID 2 and 3, right? So our goal is to calculate this maximum gap for each user. So we will solve this problem using two approaches. The first approach is step-by-step method for beginners, and the second approach will use the coalesce function. Okay. So pause the video here and try to solve it yourself. Now let's move on to the SQL Server. Select from user visits. In the output, we want to include user ID, visit date, and the next visit of each user. So lead function helps us get the next visit date in the same row. Okay. So we will use lead visit date partition by, over partition by user ID, order by visit date as a next visit. Right. Now I will run this query. and it will return the user ID, the visit date, and the next visit for each user. Okay. And notice that for last visit, 3rd December 2020, the next visit is null. Okay, because there is no visit after that. So for that, we need to calculate the gap between the last visit and today's date, which is 1st January 2021. So to handle this, we can use case statement, right? Now I will make it as a CT with CT as, then select user ID, visit date, case when next visit is null, then we will use assumed current date, which is 1st January 2021, right? Else, we will use next visit. And as next visit date from CT, right? Now I will run this query and see. It will give us the user ID, visit date, and next visit date. Okay. So it will replace with today's date, 1st January 2021. Right. So in user ID 2, 9th December, last visit date. Okay. And then next visit date will be 1st January 2021. Similarly for user ID 3. Okay. Now we need to calculate the gap between the visit date and the next visit date. Okay. To find out the largest gap in days between two visits for each user. For that, we will use dateDiff function. So now I will make it as a CT2. Select dateDiff, user ID, dateDiff, day, visit date, and next visit date. And we have to find out the maximum gap in days between two visits. So for that, we will use max aggregate function. So it will calculate the largest gap in days between two visits for each user. Okay. As largest gap from CT to. Okay. And group by user ID. Now I will run this query. Incorrect syntax. Okay, sorry. Now I will run this query and see. It will give us the user ID and largest gap, which is maximum window of days. User ID 1, the maximum window is 39 days. User ID 2, 65 days, and user ID 3, 51 days. Right. Now, we will solve this problem using coalesce function. This function returns the first non-null value from the list of values provided to it. Okay. So select from user user visit. In the output, we want user ID, visit date, and then we will use coalesce function to handle the situation when there is no next visit date. Okay. So for the last visit of user, in our case, for user ID 1, last visit date is 3rd December, right? So there is a no next visit. Then lead function would return null. So we will use coalesce to replace this null with today's date, which is 1st January 2021. Okay. So I will use coalesce. Then lead visit date over partition by user ID and order by visit date. Okay. So lead function looks at the next visit date for each user based on the user ID. Okay. And for the last visit date, where is there is a no next visit, lead function will return null. That's where the coalesce function comes in. Okay. So coalesce checks if the lead, it means it will check if the lead result is null, and if it is null, then it will replace it with the assumed current date, which is 1st January 2021, today's date, right? As a next visit. Now I will run this query and see. It will give us the user ID, visit date, and either the next visit or 1st January 2021 for the last visit, right? So I will make it as a CTE. Now we need to calculate the difference in days between the visit date and next visit date. For that, we will use dateDiff function, and then we will use the max function to find the maximum gap. Right, so select user ID, dateDiff, day, visit date, next visit date, next visit, as, and we need to find out the maximum gap. So we will use max function as largest gap from CTE and group by user ID. Okay, so dateDiff function calculate the number of days between visit date and next visit. Okay, and then we will use max function to find the largest gap between visits for each user. Okay, so now I will run this query and see. It will return the user ID and the maximum window of days. So for user ID 1, maximum window is 39. For user ID 2, 65. And for user ID 3, maximum window of days 51. Right. I hope you found this video helpful. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Thank you.